Well, we just saw Foxcatcher, and on this show, I take my friends, we go see a movie, we review it in the car, and then we have a discussion. The review part is spoiler-free, so if you're on the fence trying to decide if this is a movie for you, you'll get our recommendations and watch that part. If you have already seen the movie and just want to know everything we thought, or don't care about spoilers, watch the whole thing. So Foxcatcher is the story of ornithologist, philanthropist John DuPont and his wrestling team of Mark and Dave Schultz. It's a true story. It's played by Steve Carell as John DuPont, Mark Ruffalo as Dave Schultz, and Channing Tatum as Mark Schultz. And this is a movie that's gotten a lot of buzz. Unfortunately, it hasn't opened in all of the country. It just opened in our theater this weekend. So we weren't sure if it was ever going to actually come here, but it did. We're glad to have seen it. It's a movie that it's really interesting. It's an edge-of-your-seat thriller kind of movie. Not because it's scary, but because it's very suspenseful. You don't know what's going to happen. Every scene is kind of has sort of a bizarre quality to it. The performances are very, very strange, especially Steve Carell's character. And so you spend a lot of the movie sort of on the edge of your seat, wondering, what's going to happen or when it's going to happen. It sounds like, it would be a very exciting movie, or it might be, a movie to go see because you really want to see really great performances and all that sort of thing. As far as who I would recommend it to, obviously if you want to see what the fuss is about with all the nominations and things that it's gotten, it's worth seeing for that. But I think it's something that you need to sort of be ready for it to be a quieter story than it really may seem like. It's very much about how strange things are, a lot of openness, a lot of space in the scenes. It's very good, and it's very interesting to watch. But it's one of those movies that the first time you watch it, you'll probably walk out and say, I don't know that I would rush out and see that, or I don't know if the story was particularly worth adapting versus making a straight up documentary or something like that. I actually think it's great. It's just not like a mainstream, Oscar bait type of movie. It's not, the music doesn't swell, and there's not some a big emotional moment or whatever. It's all these very little scenes and this kind of slow build up to the climax. And even the climax itself is very understated and quiet. Has kind of a bit of a feel of Fargo, but without the humorous side of Fargo. So anyway, if that sounds good to you, definitely check it out. From my point of view, it's not a movie for everybody. But it's definitely good. It's suspenseful. The performances are really good. The story is intriguing. And if you read the Wikipedia story about it, you'll know the details, but you still won't really be able to tell, what's going to happen when you watch the movie itself. So that's what I thought. What'd you guys think?
I think I'd have to agree. It's definitely not a movie that I would rush out to go see, but I'm happy that I saw it. Mm-hmm. I do see how it can be both, a movie as well as a documentary. It would work good as a documentary. Mm-hmm. I hope it's not a remake. It just needs to stay where it's at. Oh, yeah. I don't want it to ever be remade. The characters, the actors are really well, and it's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I enjoyed it. I thought the performances were worth seeing alone. Steve Carell gives off this aura of just uneasiness. Every single time he was on screen, my skin crawled. It's really weird feeling to get nervous about somebody being in a room when you're not truly in a room with them. Yeah. And that's what this movie manages to do, and it's really good. I actually, Fargo is a good movie to compare it to, but I got kind of a Winter's Bone feel to it.
Sure.
Really uneasy, but not. It's something that builds over time, and then boom, it happens. This one, everything is pretty much understated, and that allows it to build tension and build tension and build tension. And I just, oh my God, it was intense. It was intense.
So who would you recommend it to?
I would recommend it really to people who one, want to know what the Oscar buzz is about, and two, that just really appreciate good performances. I don't know that you watch this movie and think, oh well, that was fantastic, I'm gonna rush out and buy that one when it comes out. But you can watch it and you can support these actors and just appreciate the absolute the quality of their work. It was phenomenal.
Cool.
I really enjoyed it.
So that's our thoughts. If you want to go see the movie, go do that. Don't let us spoil anything for you. We're going to get into the discussion part, and all bets are off as to what we talk about or whether we go into spoilers. So, yeah, I knew that I knew about the murder, and I knew about there's a standoff that took it was several days long. They don't really go into that in the movie at all. But what happened was DuPont locked himself up in his house, and he was talking to the police on the phone, but he wasn't going to come out. And they shut off some utility of his, his water heater or something like that, and didn't tell him that that's what they were doing or anything. So he came out to check on whatever it was that they shut off, and that's when they got him. That's when they caught him. They don't dramatize that into the movie, and I think that's really a good indication of how this movie is, because it's not an action movie. It's not a hostage movie. It's not, it's not a historical drama per se. It's more about just two or three people in a room having a conversation and how much they can do with that, how much they can really pull out of that. And the way that they use wrestling in the movie, it's like Olympic wrestling, especially if you don't know a whole lot about it, it's really uncomfortable to watch. It's really uncomfortable to watch people rehearse it, practice it. It looks really bad. It looks really wrong when people are doing it, just to our modern, way of looking at things. So that also gives it this sort of air of what are they doing? What's going on here? So yeah, it was. I really enjoyed it. It was weird to see three people that are just kind of mostly passive characters. Channing Tatum's Mark is very understated. He's the only one that really has the outbursts. But we also follow him much closer than everybody else. That scene where he puts his head through the mirror, that actually happened. He was did that as an improvisation and had glass sticking out of his head. And but yeah, it's sort of this masterclass in subtlety and understatement. It's just these three guys just sort of making their way through the scene as slowly and uncomfortably as possible.
Yeah, I noticed even the dialogue, and I don't know if the actual people involved in it talked like this, and that was, something they tried to get across. But even the dialogue was really slow, and it just it gave everything time to build. Is this conversation going to go well? Is it going to end in a sudden outburst? Again, especially if Steve Carell's in there.
Yeah.
You never know what's about to happen, and it gives you this feeling of it's like two people are arguing in the room and you're the third person, and you just you want to get out of there, but you can't.
And you have no like you have no control or no say or no stake in what's happening. You're just there until it's over. You know, you're just stuck until it's over.
Yeah.
I feel like the events are ones that you want to keep watching, though. You want to,
Oh, yeah.
even though it's slow building and slow getting started, it's, okay, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah,
There's
you can't
not many
stop.
movies where you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go stop. I'm going to go get a drink of water, come back. It's one that you want to finish and you want to stay with the entire time. Because you don't want to miss anything, or it's something where that next sentence could be a blow up when he comes into the gym and just shoots the gun and then kind of claps and then leaves.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't expect that. You just were like, well, why is this man carrying a gun into the gym with society as it is today? You have the fear.
You have this feeling that at any second it could go wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that stays with you the entire movie.
Yeah.
I think I enjoyed the fact with the characters. I mean, there aren't a whole lot of times where people can stay in character the entire time and you don't realize it's, okay, this isn't Channing Tatum acting. He's not shaking her. He's not Magic Mike. You actually see the emotion that he's portraying and the character he's getting with his stance and his walk as a wrestler. That was something that I definitely could pick up, and I see that he was mindful to keep the entire time with his character.
Yeah, and he had something going on too, like he was like giving himself an underbite or something like that. Like he looked slightly different than normal. Mark Ruffalo also looked slightly different than normal. His was more like the way they did his hair and stuff. But like all three of them seemed to have like a little bit of prosthesis or a little bit of, you know, something going on. Like they might have had something, you know, sort of under his lower lip to kind of give him that more underbite look. But yeah,
He didn't look uncomfortable. It didn't look like it wore him. It looked like he wore the prosthetics and everything and wore it well with his acting.
What amazed me is, you know, usually when you have some big names like that, you're kind of like, oh, you know, there was that one scene between Steve Carell and Channing Tatum. But this movie, they kind of faded away and the characters took over, and to the point where when we were talking about it, we're like, you know, when DuPont talked to Mark, you know, we were referring to him in characters like the actors just faded away, and what was left was their work, and that's really the sign of a good movie, in my opinion. Is that
actors as well.
That was wonderful.
Yeah, that's what's called passing the name test. If you can remember a character's name instead of just the actor's name, like if it's a famous actor, if it's an actor you don't know, then it doesn't matter. But if you can remember a character's name instead of remembering it as, you know, it's Steve Carell, it's like if you can remember that he's John DuPont, that means that it was a solid performance, that he managed to do that and portray that. Yeah, it's definitely a movie that if you can't make it through the movie without using the restroom, don't see it.
You're not gonna enjoy it.
Wait for it to come out, and you know where you have a pause button and all that. But yeah, it's my second time seeing it, and I was still on the edge of my seat the whole time. It's still just so. Every scene is just so tense, and so every one of them builds up, and then it ends, and it cuts to the next thing, and you're like, there's like this relief, but then you're like, what's happening now? Like what happened between the last cut and where we're starting here? And
no, that's something interesting you bring up right there, because there were no transitions. Like it faded to black, and then you loaded up the next scene.
Yeah.
It didn't even fade so much. Like a lot of times it would just
Flash to the next
cut
scene.
to black.
It would just do a flat cut to the next scene.
I thought that was interesting. Like every now and then when the tension was really high, it would just go to a black screen for a second, and it would linger there, and then it would load up the next scene. I was like, wow.
Well, actually, if a lot of those, if you look really close, they did a lot of things where, especially in the middle of the movie, when Mark and John are the only ones out there, they do a lot of scenes where it starts in what looks like a completely black space, but it's actually the camera in a dark room, and they turn a light on. So like you get this sense that like they're touring a space, or they're in a dark room, and like they turn on the light, and then they have a conversation, or there'll be like this really dark painting, and then the painting will sort of grow in
Light up
light, or
through.
somebody will walk past it, and then a scene will start.
No.
It's like they're really sort of giving you the sense of place and how big and empty the estate is, the ranch is. So, yeah.
The more
Gives
we
you an
talk
idea of
about
what
it,
money can buy.
honestly, the more we talk about it, the better it's getting. Like in my mind, it was great, but now like talking about that really makes some scenes better.
Yeah.
Thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm actually glad I saw it a second time, because I was kind of on the same boat. It was like, well, it was all right, and I can see why people are excited about it. But yeah, the second time, like being able to pay attention to some of the more subtle things, or the choices they made as from a filmmaking perspective versus just being focused on the characters and the story, which is mostly all that you get out of it the first time you watch any movie, is you're just kind of following the story and all that. So yeah, it's good. Check it out if you get a chance. Thanks for watching. If you like the way we do these reviews, please like the video, subscribe, check out all the written and video reviews at dalemaxfield.com, and thanks for watching.